So we are a Women Who Code Python track. Welcome everyone. Good morning, afternoon, and maybe evening for some of you. Our mission is that we are a global nonprofit dedicated to inspire women to excel in technology careers. Our main goal is to empower with the skills needed for professional achievement, educate companies to better promote and retain and hire talented women, build a global community where networking and mentorship is valued, develop roles and support this generation of engineers. So we are all here about support, about empower each other and help each other in any way we can. Our code of conduct, we are an inclusive community. We are dedicated and provide experience for everyone and anyone who can participate and support this goal. If it doesn't matter the gender, the identity, the expression, anything. The most important thing is that we are here to support each other and to support the goal for the Women Who Code. We have different tracks, just in case you don't know. We have front end, we have blockchain, we have Python, which is us, we have mobile, we have cloud, and data science. We want to thank our sponsors. Without them, we wouldn't be here. We have McKinsey Company, Python Software Foundation, the Home Depot, and we have another one, right, Bethany? What is the name of the other one? Atlassian, did I say that right? I believe so. That's a new sponsor is coming in to support us.
Yes, no, I'm sorry, I was muted. I apologize. Our latest sponsor is Atlassian, and some of you may have worked with their really fabulous tools. They make Jira and Confluence, and they actually are the proud owners of Trello, which they bought from Stack Overflow. So yeah, we're very excited that Atlassian has joined us.
So you can get involved and support us if you ever are interested in helping us out to build this community to grow. We have leads, we have evangelists. So any little help that you could do for the community to grow is appreciated. You can communicate with Bethany and with I, or you can communicate by Slack by the channel. We have a volunteer channel as well. And you can join our conversation. Is WWCodePython, and for Twitter, for Instagram, and for Facebook. So tonight is the Automate Boring Stop Chapter 8. Reading and writing files. Has anyone has fun reading and writing files tonight? Practicing?
I had some fun. I
Yes.
need a net too, but that's because I'm talented that way. I haven't crashed my computer yet, but if I suddenly go offline, people, it's because my Windows image and my Mac are fighting with each other. So.
Oh, I bet. I can't imagine the fighting with. So actually reading this article, I was like, but if you're doing Mac, do this. But if you're doing Windows, do this. And I'm like, oh no. And then I work with Windows all day, but I'm using Mac now at home. And sometimes I'm like confusing the times. What am I using? Am I using right now the Mac? No, I'm using Windows right now. So it's like,
and what to me that is actually a brilliant lead-in to the library that he first goes over here, which is the OS library. And we should probably take a pause for a second and reflect on the brilliance of the people who worked on this for the Python language, because you only really have to worry about the slashes when you're talking to the OS library. You don't have to worry about all of this other really complicated stuff, like the difference between line endings in Windows and in Mac, and all of that, because they've abstracted it away for you. And so, you know, the OS library is really wonderful because it allows you to write your Python code in a way that isn't tied, right? If I write Python code on my Mac, if I do it right using the OS library, I don't have to worry about it running on a Windows machine. And that's a beautiful thing. So, yay! Yay, Python!
And I want to remind something, everyone. I know we have a few people, probably we don't know this is a study group that we want everyone to participate. We want to talk. We want to be able to communicate. We want to be able to ask questions, answer the questions as well. So we want it to be interactive. We don't want to just be talking and talking and talking us. We want everyone to talk and give us an opinion or ask us something or tell us what challenges did they face, if you were able to read it all, if you were able to practice or not. We want to share as much as I can so we can help each other in any way.
Yeah, and I just want to put out there that I am by no means an expert. I learn every single day and I make mistakes, and I love it when people ask me questions I can't answer that I have to go research. And, you know, when they weigh in and they say, hey, no, you're wrong, or maybe you can solve the problem a different way. I think that's how I learn and how other people learn. And so Liliana and I really want this study group and these sessions to be that sort of environment where you're safe to ask your questions and get them answered and talk with each other about the material. And depending, it may not work for this chapter, but oftentimes we will hop into Python Tutor or other places to kind of work on code snippets and, you know, and deal with it. And sometimes we also complain like about regex, but that's in the past now. So onward to files. Yeah. So I don't know. Does anyone want to talk about the first part of this, or do we just kind of want to? Maybe we should cruise through a little of the material, or maybe somebody either in chat or verbally can talk about what a file path is.
Anyone?
Oh, Anthony says he doesn't have a mic right now. It's okay, Anthony. If you want to type in chat, Liliana or I could read it out too, if you'd like.
Superwomen, you want to talk, Superwomen?
I was trying to let everybody else talk. I'm new, remember?
Oh, so Danielle is saying that a file path specifies the location of the path. Yeah, the path to what, though?
It's a location, right? Direction to files or programs or anything that you store in different directories or partitions.
Nice, yes. Yeah. And that's, to me, one of the little bit of confusing things here, because the OS library has this term called get working directory, right? Get CWD. And it also has change dir.
Yep.
But then there are other places where it will print out a file as opposed to a directory, right? So like the basename command versus the Dirname command. So that was, to me, was a little bit confusing. Like I was like, oh, I have to remember that.
Well, that, and then it was saying get size, and I would forget, oh yeah, what working directory am I at after I change the directory?
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know if any of you use IPython, but this was the one case that I have found in a very, very long time where IPython's ability to pass a command to the bash terminal on a Mac or Linux machine was helpful to me, because I was able to double check the size that I got back by passing a bash. Like I would get lost and not know what directory I was in. And so I was able to be like, !, tree. So yeah, but that's because I was using IPython. Anyway, I'm digressing. So yeah, so path is what it says, a path to file or one or more, you know, directories. And then relative path.
The relative path are relative.
Relative to.
Just kidding.
It's related to. It's like the cousin of.
isn't it related to the current directory? Did I say that right?
Yes, it's related to like X marks the spot. So if the dot is the X on the map where you stand, dot in Linux and Unix, not in Windows. But if the X marks the spot where you stand, then a relative path is from where you are to where you want to be. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Versus absolute, which is, you know, go to the top of the tree and run back down.
Yes.
Alrighty. And unless somebody wants to go over this in detail, even though I use both Mac and Windows, I use Linux, Mac, and Windows, I really don't want to go over in detail like which ones have forward slashes and which ones have backslashes, but we can if you'd like.
Well, we went through it, and by the time we got to the last, it's like, let's just move to the next part.
Let's say this. For those of you listening and those of you asking questions, a warning, Liliana and I both mainly use the Mac OS.
Same
So
here.
if something we're doing starts to confuse you, or we are not paying enough attention to how it's done on Windows, unmute yourself and say, stop, do it on Windows, or type a message. Both Liliana and I have access to Windows machines, so we can show you the Windows version, and shame on us if we don't remember to. So just let's set that as a kind of as a norm that, you know, speak up if you want to work through an example that is a Windows example, so that we make sure we do that. Okay, Liliana, do you want to bring up the book? Shall we go through the next section? I guess maybe we should start with an example of importing this library. So the first library we're going over is the OS library.
Yep. So reading, writing files. Yes, there it is.
Yep.
So the first one he goes through is, what is it? The OS.
Yep. So we want to import the OS, and I can share my screen, or you can share yours, or somebody else, if anybody else wants to share their screen.
We would love somebody else to share the screen better.
Yeah.
We want to see a cute screen that is not ours.
Lisa,
I'll share.
You'll share? Okay, go for it. Yay.
Hey.
Woohoo. Wonder Woman to the rescue.
Let me make sure I actually share the right screen. I got too many. Hold on.
Yeah, we wouldn't want you to share the screen that has.
Yeah, that's everyone.
Something you don't want to share.
Yeah, I have too many. Hopefully, I don't know. I was trying to open it. Are we going interactive first? Because that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
I'm using PyCharm.
Oh, nice.
I'm trying to do VS Code, but it looks different, and I'm having to get used to that right now. So
you and I can bond over that. I am one of these silly people. I use PyCharm for Python. I use VS Code for Go. I like use a different code editor per language. But yeah, VS Code's different.
Yeah.
Also, you can't do Docker containers from VS Code as easily. So anyway.
Yeah, besides knowing Docker and Django, it's all over the place. Oh my gosh. All right. So we're import OS, right? That's what you wanted to get.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So import OS. This is the part that I thought it was kind of, I'm like, what's the point of this? It joins what the different folder names or paths. So I know it was OS path.join. And I'm like, me and my friends were like, well, did it create a folder? Because we're here silly looking for this thing after it has been joined. We're like, it doesn't exist anywhere.
So after we do this example, I'll quickly share my screen. I have a Django file that shows one real-world instance of where you would use join, although now Django has moved to using a different library than OS. But yeah, I can show you one of those. Let me pull up my party-colored PyCharm here. Oh, where is it? PyCharm Django. Okay, yeah. I don't know if can everyone see that? Okay, is that clear?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I see it.
So, oh, actually, no, this one is the environment file. I am really sorry. Let me pull the other one that I meant to show you guys. That's really silly.
I cannot see anything right now. It's black.
It is?
I see it.
You see it? No, can you see the Django stars one that I moved over?
Yep.
Or, okay.
I cannot. Why I cannot? It says I'm seeing someone else's screen. This is weird.
That is strange.
Okay, I have to pick. Okay, I see you now.
Okay.
Oh, you're seeing different shares? Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, because I have an option here that I can choose which shares I want to see. So I have both of you.
Oh, I see. Ah, so you can spy on everyone. Nice. Okay, so if you see this Django stars example, this is.
Oh, wait 1 second. People cannot see the screen yet. Can you see it now? Click on
I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Yeah, stop sharing your screen for a sec. Yeah.
Here,
Okay.
go ahead.
Okay, so can you see the Django stars Django configuration file? Or are you looking at my PyCharm?
I see base.py file, local.py. You have your folder structure with the root.
So let me, I'm sorry, let me, I'm sharing the wrong window. I apologize. I'm an idiot. Okay. See, ladies and gentlemen, this is why you do not have 50 million windows open at the same time, because then you confuse people.
Everyone has that, so.
Okay, so now
we see it.
Now the Django stars. Okay, so this is a sample config file from the Django stars, and this is a config file for a web framework called Django, where you build websites for it. And the settings file is super, super, super important to Django. If it isn't in the settings file, it doesn't happen. Like, you could make all the application code you want, but if you don't register it in the settings file, Django just ignores you, which is really frustrating. And one of the things that is really important, because Django is a server-side rendering engine, in order to get any web pages at all out of it, it has to know, like, it has to know what the site route is, it has to know the paths to everything, or it just doesn't work. So one of the things that they use OS for is for things like this site route variable. Notice OS path Dirname, OS path Dirname, OS path Dirname. And essentially what they're using this for is to use the OS module to walk the path that Django finds itself in until it finds the init file. Because then it knows that's where I start to execute stuff, right? So that's the site route. That's what everything else is relative to. And so this is what they're doing here. And then if you notice further down, okay, so this is one variable, the site route. And then further down here in media, here we go, your OS path join. Take the site route, add assets to it, right? Take the static folder, static's where you have all your images, put that at the end of the site route. So this is the kind of context that you use join for, but like you said, it can be very confusing because this doesn't make the directory, but what it's doing is...
I thought it was gonna make the directory when I was reading that, and I was like, what is going on here?
No, but it's a trick for dynamically programming, right?
Yeah.
So we know we're gonna have an assets folder, but what we don't know is where Django's gonna get installed. So when Django gets installed and wakes up, it walks this and makes the site route and then builds these from it because these get tagged on. Yeah, and so that's the context often that you use join in is either making things dynamically because you're trying to find certain types of files in certain directories, or in this case, doing a mapping at a web framework startup so that, you know, it can find its butt with both hands. Like, here's my asset files, here are my static files. I woke up today and I'm in this directory, so now everything else is relative to it. So that's just that's one place that you would see it. Another place that I have seen this a lot is building like a little command line client for AWS, right? So if you're storing things on S3, and what you want to do is like everything of type SVG goes into one bucket, everything of type PNG goes into another bucket, and you do this kind of OS path join to make the S3 path that you then feed to Amazon for when you're like uploading files or something, and do it that way. All right, I'll stop blathering. Your turn, somebody else now. But that's an example of where you would use it. But I agree. You do it on the command line and you're like, what's the point of this?
Exactly. Yeah, I felt totally that way. What's the point of this?
All right. So carry on. I'll stop there. So we do join. So now, speaking of people who get lost, now we get on to the working directory. Someone else want to share? Do the working directory stuff? Don't be shy.
Don't be shy. You can share.
You can do it.
We'll help you in case you need help.
It's the fun part. You get to participate.
Oh, come on.
Or you see all the typos we make.
Come on, anyone. You can send a message or.
I'm sorry, y'all. I would share, but I'm on my phone right now.
Oh, okay. Bummer.
Bummer. Okay, but we have 8 people more. Come on, someone else.
Danielle, Jamie, Olivia, Sunita, Nat, anyone? It goes faster when you're typing, I swear. Also, I think it helps build muscle memory. For me personally, I am in the bash terminal so much that doing this was good discipline for me because it's different commands.
All right, I'm just gonna share so I don't feel like we're forcing.
All right, thank you. You're saving me from my terrible typos and from being made fun of because I'm using Spider, which is, you know.
Nah, that's all right. We're in the fun crew. All right, so we did the join, right?
Yeah, now we want to make a directory.
Yeah, like what do we do if we've lost where we are in the world? I mean, I know that PyCharm is kind of showing you, but yeah, if you wanted to get the directory you're in right now, what would you do? Can anyone help her out? What command would she use to get the current directory from Python?
So that would be the, you have to import the OS.
Well, it's already imported. She's already imported OS.
And then you
that is a good start. You do have to import it.
Make dir? Is it make?
No, Jamie got it. Good.
Ah, yeah. See, this one throws me off because this one, if you
I was talking about
bash,
making
you do PWD, but this one's CWD. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We forgot to do making the folders. Or did I? Oh no, that's before.
No. That's the next step. We're getting there. We're getting there.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm advancing too quick. I'm sorry. That's my fault. Yeah.
Okay, so that gets where you are, but what if I want to see what's in there? Why wouldn't PW? Oh, Danielle, that's an excellent question. The reason PWD doesn't work in this context is because, as you can see here, she's launched what's called the Python interpreter, the interactive interpreter. So if she types right now PWD, go ahead and do that if you can, if you don't mind. Right, it doesn't know what the name PWD means because PWD is a program that runs in a bash terminal, which is a different shell. It's a different program, and it's a program that runs, well, it runs on all 3 operating systems these days. But that's why PWD doesn't work here, is because we're in Python land. So we have to use os.get cwd. Although if she were running the right, well, not the right, I shouldn't say right. If she were running a terminal called IPython, she could perhaps have PWD, but right now she's inside the Python interpreter. So Python doesn't know what she means. All right.
So okay.
Yeah. Whereas, you know, if you're launching the default Mac terminal, if you notice up there, it says bash. So this is actually its own program. It's its own program that runs on top of the Linux operating system that Mac OS is based on. And when you type PWD, it's calling a program called PWD that prints the working directory.
Oops. Yeah. So that works here, but not on the other one, because I'm an idle.
On the other one. Yeah, because this one,
Yep.
and you can tell the difference too, because if you notice, she's got a $sign there in her bash terminal, which is a bash prompt. And if you look in the PyCharm, the Python prompt has these 3 brackets, and that is kind of a warning to you that you're in Python land. Yeah, so now she's in Python land. Right. Yeah. Why? Oh, okay. So yeah, this can be a lot. And one of the things that can be a little bit confusing if you're a Windows user that kind of gets dropped into this is that on Windows, you don't, unless you've done some extra steps, you don't typically have direct access to a bash shell like the one she brought up. Yes, you can install a Linux subsystem, and so then you can call a bash shell on Windows. But usually on Windows, you have what's called the command shell, and you have the PowerShell, and those don't quite behave the way bash does. So it can be a little bit confusing. Oh, yay, you're launching Windows image. Woohoo! Thank you.
Hopefully it works. Oops. Hold on. Password.
It does not like your password. No,
Yeah, it's my random password. So that's the command, right?
Yeah, and so this is a different sort of deal. And so this carries with it different, PWD doesn't work here either. I think it's dir, right? Yeah. So that is a little bit different. Now, if she had the bash shell or the Linux subsystem installed on her Windows machine, she could get something that kind of behaved like bash, but the support is not as smooth as quite yet. They're getting there. And sometimes also you will see if you use, some people use the git bash shell on Windows. Anyway, there's lots of shells. so it can be a little bit confusing sometimes.
Windows?
Yeah, so there's a git bash for Windows so that you can use the same git commands, terminal commands that you do on a Linux or Unix machine. Although I've often seen that it's suggested for Windows users that you use a GUI for bash. I mean, not for bash, but a GUI for Git. You know, a desktop program for Git rather than try to do it through the command line. But lots of options. Anyway.
Yep. Too many options.
Too many options.
Yep.
But yeah,
right.
so she did the CWD on Windows, so you can see that the slashes go a different direction. Anyway, sorry, go ahead. I'll stop talking now.
All right, so change directory.
I want a folder.
Oh, Liliana wants to. Well, Liliana, stop stepping on the gas. We are getting there, but we want to make sure we understand what's going on.
I'm sorry, I'm just
You want to change directories?
Yeah, let's change directories.
All right.
And we're
Okay.
on Mac, so we'll change the directories here, one direction. And then pop quiz, anyone else who uses Windows, why don't you type into chat what you would need to do to make this work on a Windows machine?
Nice.
Okay, so anyone who's out there in Windows land who can tell us what she'd do if she had to switch over to her Windows image and do the same sort of thing on a Windows machine? Type in a path for us, what it would look like.
Anyone?
Although I think you need to call Python before you do anything else there,
Yeah.
right? Woo!
Yes. Woo, Python.
Thankfully, I have it installed there.
Yeah, exactly. That would have been nice. It's like, I don't know what you're talking about. What do you mean, Python?
Oh, you need to import the OS first.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's where I'm at.
Okay, and then now you do.
Yeah, and notice the slashes.
I know
So-
the slashes kill me every day.
That special backslash.
Right, because of course it would have to be a backslash escaped by a backslash, of course.
I know, it's a special.
Now I think I'm a little confused because when you are in Windows and you are using Git,
Uh-huh.
you have to use the other slashes, right? Am I right or am I
You
wrong?
do, and this is what becomes quite confusing. Actually, I'm glad you brought that up, and that's another reason why I kind of went into this long explanation about the different terminals and the different programs. Git Bash runs a flavor of Bash that it maps to the underlying operating system. So the program is actually changing those slashes to the other direction, but they did the Git Bash specifically to help people to learn the Git commands. And so they stuck with the Linux and Unix flavor. But the program, the terminal actually remaps those because the underlying Windows operating system has to have them as backslashes. And that it's infuriating, but that's the world, right? Different operating systems use different file formats and they use different directory, signifiers. So yes, Git Bash will map them. And so I think you and I have done this before, Liliana. We will use Git Bash because it'll do the mapping for us so that we don't have to use backslashes. Because yes. But yes, so here you use a backslash, but you have to escape the backslash with a backslash.
Mm-hmm.
Be warned. And I had quite a nasty shock too because I run Parallels and on my Mac, and so my Windows image can see my Mac image, but it can't when I do this. So that was kind of interesting. I was trying to get to a place on my Mac that didn't exist in the Windows world. It was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, so great. So we're doing Git working directory and we do the backslash there. And we did a change directory. Okay, so Let's see. Shall we try some relative paths versus absolute paths? So how about if I just want to go one directory up here instead of going from C down? What if I wanted to kind of go from where I am backwards up one directory?
One dot. Back.
Give it a try.
Path.
I was kind of getting the finger from Windows when I was playing with this earlier, but I think that's the case, right? So you're there and you want to go dot dot, right? Two steps up.
Would that work in Windows?
I don't know that it will. It might tell you that it doesn't recognize that. That's what it said to me, but let's see.
I want to go.
Prompt will do it.
What?
Unicode error. Oh, you need to escape the slash with another slash.
Oh,
God.
I'm sorry. That's really awful that I even know that.
well,
Nope,
cannot
it can't find it. It can't find it. It doesn't know what dot dot means. So the book may be wrong about this because I think he said that dot and dot dot work.
Yeah,
Mhm.
in the current working directory.
I thought you used CD ... in Windows.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Well,
let's give
CD
that a
on the
try.
Windows. Yeah.
Give that a try. So it should work then. Dot dot ought to work. Try os dot change directory just with the dot dot in quote and not with another
Okay.
path.
So we'll just
Dot dot.
without
Yeah.
is this like that?
No, try it in quotes first. I think you need to quote it.
And then
End quote.
In quote and then the parentheses.
Yeah.
oh,
One more quote, one more and a close parenthesis. Yeah. Try
It's gonna
that.
explode.
Okay.
Oh,
So dot dot works, but dot dot slash doesn't.
interesting.
oops. Did I just?
You did gwet instead of get. There we go. It did go up. So there's a few quirks, but yeah, it did go up one. So I guess
that's-
would dot dot slash slash dot dot work? I wonder. I can
Let's
give that
see.
a try on my Windows image.
So that
Go up
Slash?
2 directories instead of 1, right? So that would be usually on a Unix machine that would be dot dot slash dot dot, but on a Windows machine that would be dot dot slash slash dot dot. I don't know if that would work or not.
oh, let's see. That did it.
Oh, nice. Okay. Woo! So now you're at C.
Mm-hmm.
Nice, interesting.
Oh yeah, Jamie is saying that dot dot worked for them. Cool. Okay. I think the horse is dead. We've beaten it.
I have a question.
Yes.
Are you using a Windows virtual box on your Mac?
Yeah, I'm using Fusion VMware with Windows inside of that. I always use that on my Mac. That's how we work usually, since we have applications that we have to use Windows.
Okay.
And the difference between that and my setup is that her setup is much better for development and testing, where you absolutely have to have compatibility, because Fusion separates the hardware so that this Windows machine is a Windows machine in the sense that it occupies space on the hardware and it occupies its own universe. My Windows setup is called Parallels, and my Windows setup uses a virtualization layer, so it's a little bit closer to Docker than it is to a full machine. And so my Windows image is polluted from a testing perspective, because my Windows image can kind of see my Mac operating system, so it is not isolated. Hers is, that's the proper way to do it.
On my machine, I'm just using VirtualBox.
Yeah,
VirtualBox
and
is
that's
another,
the free version.
yeah.
Yeah.
she's using a paid version that is made by a company called VMware. VirtualBox is put out by Oracle and it's not open source, but it's free, right?
Yes.
Yeah. We use it because of the enterprise, right? So we deploy a lot of servers with VMware for a lot of the Cisco voice applications. But for us, since we're consultants and engineers for security, I actually had Parallel, but I stopped. I was vulnerable. There were security vulnerabilities. I actually found somebody trying to hack my system. I'm never going to use Parallel again, unfortunately.
Yeah, if you do this thing where you are sharing sessions once you're in the Windows machine, or just really anything where you actually need full isolation, Parallels doesn't work. Parallels works for, like, I use Parallels personally as a quick and dirty environment for when, like, I'm helping Windows users with things. But if I were to be developing a full app for Windows 10, I would want either a Windows, piece of hardware that ran Windows, or this full virtualization. For that very reason, when you're using Parallels, you're sharing, and that's not secure. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can limit this. I mean, at least the Fusion, right? You can isolate it completely, where you can pick specific NIC cards and hard drives, because I share my folder for my Mac with this Windows, so I could access the folders. But you can completely isolate, like you said, to make sure that it's running on its own.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, and what I really like too, so my background is I used to be a QA engineer before I became a code monkey. And what we often used VMware for, what's very handy when you're testing, is oftentimes you'll trash something. And that's kind of the point. And this will allow you to roll back to a different state. So you can freeze states and pass those states around to other people. So for instance, if you find a bug where you've compromised the security of an application, you can actually freeze that compromise and pass it to someone else, and they can then repeat the steps and be able to recreate your the state of your machine. So that's what makes the enterprise version of VMware really nice. You can kind of roll back stuff and pass it around. Yeah. Sorry. I used to play with that a lot. It was fun. All right. So absolute versus relative paths. So we played around with relative paths. So let's get to Liliana. Liliana, why don't you drive? We're going to make some directories. Maybe some delicious walnut waffle directories.
So I have Windows right now, so I can do it in Windows.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let's see it in Windows. I did not, I kind of got in a groove and I didn't do this part in Windows. So.
Well, let's do it in Windows. I haven't done it in Windows either, so let's mess up in there. Okay, what is my sharing button? Come on, where are you?
I always think, I think you actually have it on the rest of us, Liliana, because half your life is in Mac and half of it's in Windows, which means your brain's more flexible.
Yes.
That's how I look at it.
Yes, I don't know. Maybe.
Well, and then there's all those databases you use, so.
I know, my brain is weird lately with all this database thing and Python and
pandas, don't forget pandas.
Pandas is all in between.
Yep, lots of pandas.
Pandas rocks. So
it does. It's my favorite module.
Is it? Well, you and Liliana will be best friends now then.
Yeah, we are best friends now. Starting today, best friends. I knew we were best friends whenever you have that Wonder Woman in the back and we can do it. I already love you.
It's kismet. It's fate.
Yes. All right. I'm supposed to import, right?
Yep. Yay.
And
look at that. And nothing exploded. See? Windows wants to be your friend.
Sometimes. Is that right? And then I'm gonna make, what am I gonna make?
Do you wanna check where you are first, just in case you're in a place where you don't want to make a random file? Maybe not. You don't have to.
Why not? Let's
Okay,
make it
okay, go ahead. Check.
place. No, you're right.
It can be an Easter egg for later.
I could be what? I know, right? So OS that, what was that, get? No, yes.
Get, yeah.
W.
You did it.
Oh, I am a user. I'm in a good place to mess up.
Just
So,
okay, so now.
I'm gonna make the file, right, in there.
Yeah.
So it'll be this, and then C, and then this, and then this. And then users. Am I doing this right?
Mm-hmm.
And then this.
Yep.
No?
Yes.
Yep,
What am I-
you got it.
Definitely. And then your
Okay.
pretty name. Yeah.
Yana Torres.
And then what kind of magical file path are we making today?
I don't know. What are we doing? What do we want to do?
Well, you like pandas, so you could do some random panda path or something. I don't know.
Okay, so now this is my directory and I have to add something else. What?
Did you hit the up arrow by mistake?
Yes, dang.
Oh no, I do that all the time.
You didn't see that. Pretend that you didn't see that.
Oh no, we totally saw it and we're all empathizing because we do it like 500 times a day. Come on.
Oh, don't tell me. Today I was doing a query and I erased the whole query and I was like, what happened? It disappeared. It just disappeared.
Oh, that, you know, if that's all you said, I usually use some much more colorful words when I manage to accomplish that.
Okay, what are we making? Making
Pandas.
Pandas playing with purple parasols.
Is that all?
Pandas Life. Well, so it's the Pandas Life directory, but do you also, okay, yeah, we can, that works. I like that.
Do we want to make some more?
You tell me. You are in control. It is your machine. You are the master of the universe. Data Queen, yes. Data Queen.
Okay, I think
Python hero.
okay.
All right. So now if you change to that directory.
Okay, so that will be. Someone tell me what to do. Come on, people. I want to hear voices or messages.
All right. I'm going to shut up, though. You and I both know I talk too much. All right. I'm putting myself on mute.
Okay. Change directory, right? And then I'm cheating. How do I cheat here? I forgot in Windows. Let's see if I remember how to cheat.
You got to mark it.
Did I cheat right?
There you go. You got an extra parentheses.
Oh, June. Thank you for that. Boom.
All right. You're there.
Yes. Get CD. In my Data Queen folder.
So one of the things that
Yes.
nah, I was gonna say we could make you parse that all out, but do we really want to? I don't know. Do we want to do that, people? So that it prints a list of everything in that directory. Oh, there's nothing in that directory right now. Never mind.
Yeah, there is
Right.
nothing right now.
Um,
All right, so we make a folder. Thank you for letting me make the folder. So exciting.
See? It's cool. You have the magic. We got there. We got there. Okay. So now I guess the next piece is dealing with absolute versus relative paths. So one of the things that we could do in here while you're in here, Liliana, is you could test. So if you take the get working directory and assign it to a variable name. So type a variable name in there and then equals os.getCWD.
Wait.
Okay, don't then. Just take, actually, instead, take that path that you have up there, see users Liliana Torres. And what we're going to want to do is we want to see if Python considers that an absolute path. So there's an isAbs command, os.path.isAbs, that will tell you if what you have is an absolute or relative path. And what do you think your guess is about what that is? Is that an absolute path or a relative one?
Should be true.
True.
Woo!
Nice. And now if I do os the path that is apps, and I say that
You dot. Yeah. Or dot.
at.
Oh. Nice.
Perfect. We're experts now.
We are experts now. So this next section, I can share if somebody else can, or we can just talk through it. It talks about the difference between a Dirname and a basename. Does anybody want to take on what the difference between those two are? os.path.dirname versus os.path.basename, and where you would use it and where you wouldn't.
But the Dirname will be the folder in the path, right? Where something is at. And then the base name will be the file name and extension.
Yeah, and that's a little confusing to me because I always think of base like root. And so
yeah, well, this is not a root, right? Yeah, it's a little confusing.
Yeah, I was confused about that too, because I'm like, what?
Yeah. Well, and also, if you call base name and there's no file, does it give you an empty string? I didn't actually try that. Like,
I think it did.
It does?
I think it
Liliana,
was empty list.
Okay.
You want me to try that in here?
Well, okay, I was going to say, Liliana, if you bring up your terminal and you just try it with that same path and you call base name.
So I'm going
what does it give you back? os.path.basename.
Base
name.
And
then that same path.
Right?
Yeah. Interesting.
So
that's
they
even
put
worse.
the folder.
Yeah, that's even worse. So
Maybe,
base name
okay,
basically takes the last thing off the end.
So it's like a -1.
Yeah,
so
it's
if
a
I have
-1.
so if I have a file in there, it would show the file, right? Let's put a file in there.
Yeah, put a drag a file in there.
What? So that's really confusing then. That's not accurate.
Yeah, and it's also just those names don't map to anything in my I sound like such a bot. Those names don't map to anything in my known namespace. Those functions. Like my brain doesn't know what to do with that.
Okay, but wait, tell me data queen again.
Base name? Okay, how about it told you
Oh, wait,
no, but you have to
you gotta put the file name.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, and then that's why it's on, okay, the file name, what was the file name?
Counts.
It returns everything that comes after the last slash in the path.
Yeah.
And it could be a folder or a file or
Wait,
anything.
what kind of file is this? It's an Excel file, but which one?
The Excel worksheet. That's an Excel class, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it could be XLS or Excel. It doesn't tell me. Or XL.
XLSX.
SX, yeah.
I always screw that up. Come on, help me. XL.
SX.
SX.
Right? No?
No, you had it right. XL. Mm-hmm.
SL, SX.
Yep.
One more X.
No.
Not SX. X as in exacto. Yeah, there we go. Yes.
So,
So
it
Lisa's absolutely right. It's whatever comes after the last slash.
Yes, that's what it is. Okay, good. That's more clear now.
So
But
if we
maybe
did
base-
pandas live, it could be data queen, right?
Yep.
Or it would be pandas is life instead.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So
it
whatever
can-
is on the right-hand side of the string, the rightmost, like you said, the -1. If you think in terms of
Oh,
a
yeah.
slice, it's the -1.
Mm-hmm.
That's very deceiving.
Yeah. Well, base, I call BS on the name base. So let me get this straight. I'm going to walk the tree top down, except when it comes to this. Okay. I have an attitude problem in case no one has noticed. Okay. So yes, so there's, so let's do the Dirname. Do you want to do quickly practice with what the Dirname is going to give us then?
Mm-hmm.
So like, if you just hit the up arrow key and change base name to Dirname, what do we get back?
Should be everything that comes before the last slash.
Nice.
Oh, no, wait, their name.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm hungry.
Awesome. So if you hit like the up arrow key several times and go to that really long one up there, that's with the counts XLSX. There we go. And change it to Dirname. See, it makes slightly more sense when you've got a file name because it strips the directory path off from the file name and then you're left with right one and the other, but yeah. Okay, cool.
So this is -2.
Well, or it's the slice of everything, it's colon -1.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of -1, it's colon -1. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, good.
And how crazy is it that three of us are making perfect sense to one another by using slice notation? I think that means our brains are kind of, yeah. Uh-oh.
We'll play with a lot of data.
Yeah, lots and lots and lots of data. The whole world is one big matrix. Okay, so let's do this thing that's kind of interesting where, yeah, so did you see this OS path.split thing?
Yeah.
Where you get both of them at once? Which I kind of like the 2-for-1 because I'm lazy.
So I have to do split equal. Oh no, I don't have the path now.
And it returns it in the form of a tuple.
Yes. Which I like. Because then I don't have to deal with the badly named functions like Dirname and basename.
Mm-hmm.
I can just deal with the tuple. And I like saying tuple.
OS that path that split
and then do split calc. Yeah.
Boom.
And voila.
Well,
And that would actually be handy, right? I could see using that, doing that in a loop if I had a directory of files, right? And what my code was doing is, in fact, I had a use case earlier this week where I could have done this. So I had a whole directory of files that were different image types. Some of them were PNG, some of them were JPEG, some of them were SVG, some of them were GIFs. And I wanted to separate each type of image type into its own folder. And this would have been very handy for that because I could have looped through and done a match. And for each match, I could have executed a move to a new directory.
yes.
That's handy. I like that.
Perfect. Now the other one we have is Dirname. Right?
Yes, and then there was also, so there's Dirname, and then he also does this thing where he's doing a split on os.path.separator, which I thought was really clever and really cool, because that command will work the same on Windows as it will on Mac, because it pulls up the separator and can tell the difference. So I liked that trick. But yeah, the Dirname.
So this was the other one, right?
Yeah. So the Dirname just gives you the directory path as opposed to the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who wants to do it?
Well, or we could do the calc file path split on the OS separator. I can do that one if you want, but other people should.
Yes.
Come on, party people.
Come on, we are getting to the end of this meeting. We want someone to last hope.
I had to call in on my phone tonight. I'm sorry, I can't do it on my computer.
That's okay.
Okay.
We forgive you next time, or you can shout instructions as well. Okay, I can do it if you want me to.
Yes.
I will do it on my Mac.
Yes, doing the Mac.
And then just scream at me if you want a Windows flavor, and you can point and laugh and watch me suffer through doing it on Windows. Okay, so this is my, I need to move this out of the way. Oop. Can you see my my fabulous Spider terminal? So this is a code editor that comes with the Anaconda distribution of Python. And as you can see over here, I've been playing with Fibonacci. Don't look over at the left-hand side of the screen. Shh. All right, let me, I'm gonna do this quick thing here where I find out what we've got going on here. Oh, come on. There we go. Okay, so I'm in a women's code. Okay, and what are we wanting to do? We are wanting to do a file split, right? So let's say my path is equal to get CWD. And then we want to do my path dot split. That's the Python split. And what are we splitting on? Does anyone want to tell me what we're splitting on? Oh, I actually can't see the chat window anymore for some reason. What happened here? Where did my chat window go? Liliana, if you see somebody put something in chat, give a shout out, because I actually can't see the chat window at the moment. It obscured it. Oh, Where's my chat window? View options. Oh.
Oh, I'm in mute. Oh my God, I'm sorry. I've been talking.
Oh. Okay, do share, Liliana.
Why no one is saying anything? No,
because they were muted?
Yes, I forgot.
Okay, so what do I type here in the parentheses?
My cat was crying, so I have to mute myself. You have to put os.path.
Okay.
.sep, S-E-P.
Okay. And what is this going to print out?
Ooh, it's gonna separate everything from the path. It's gonna separate.
From which path? From the one on 44?
On the path.
Okay.
Go for it.
Okay. That was super exciting. Woo! All right.
Just have some scissors and we just cut it in between.
We just cut it in between along the dotted lines.
Yes.
All right. So we are at a little bit before the half hour. And so normally at this point we'd wrap up a little, and I don't know that we got as far as maybe we wanted to, but maybe we get some input from all of you if you're coming back next week. And do we want to split this chapter into 3, or do we want to cover the rest of this chapter next week? I know we have, let me stop the share here. I'm just looking through here. We haven't gotten to file reading and writing or open writing to files. And then I think he also has some, there's the shelf module, which I think we were talking at the top of this meeting was a little bit, maybe I will, or Liliana will take on trying to figure out what the real world use of the shelf module is, just because we have that. And the pprint p format is also interesting. And then we also have a random quiz file. So we have a couple homework files too. What do you think? Do we do a part 2 and a part 3 for this chapter, or do we want to try to finish the rest of this next week?
I'm thinking you're going to end up having 3 parts because it's quite long.
That would give us time to do the problems in the back of the chapter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do that then. Next week we'll do part 2, and what feels like a good chunk then to kind of and next week Lily and I are going to be, you know, pushy about having people do stuff and ask questions.
Yeah, we want you to do it. So, yeah.
Because she and I play with Python a lot, but we also want you to play with us because we're greedy that way. Let's see, we have finding file sizes and folder contents, checking the path validity, and then we get into file reading and writing. To me, it feels as though that is a good enough chunk. Maybe talk about the shelf module, but not get too wrapped up in it. And then we save the third thing from saving variables through to the projects for a third round. What does that feel like to people? Does that feel like a good amount, or?
Yeah, I think so.
What do you think, Lisa? Is that a good amount for you, or?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So for next week, we will cover through to saving variables with the pprint pformat function, but we won't go beyond that. And for the shelf module, Liliana and I personally have as homework kind of trying to dig up a little bit more of like a real world example of how you would use that module, like a practical example of that. That sound good?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So does anyone here, and we can continue this conversation in Slack later and asynchronously, but does anyone here have any additional questions or concerns or requests for things that we might cover? Now would be the time.
Well, I have a question, but it's about the regex. I missed that meeting.
Okay.
That stuff was so hard. Do you absolutely have to use regexes?
I don't think anything is absolute. With many, many things, the answer is it depends. I always look at all of this as it being another tool in your tool belt. That being said, there are applications and there are corners of the programming and IT world where regexes, just like with things like SQL, they become indispensable because of their efficiency and their speed. But it's a lot. It's a lot when you're learning everything all at once. And to me personally, I would put regexes in order of priority somewhere below learning things like Git. But that's my personal opinion. And Madeline, maybe you can weigh in a little bit on how you feel about regexes.
Yeah, I mean, just like you said, it depends on the need. I know I work with a lot of network engineers, and they may feel that they need to use it, but I keep hearing a lot of Ansible lately because a lot of people want to automate configurations in general with mixed in with Python quite a bit. I think as long as you know what it is, that's what matters, because you can always go back. I don't think that we're expected to remember how things work, especially if you don't use it every day, but at least you know that there's a tool and you know where to go. If they mention it, you're like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about now. You don't feel so lost in the middle of the conversation, especially when everybody's geeking out with different things like Flask and the funny names that they have. I'm like, can you guys stick to one name so it doesn't sound like a fruit or a candy or something?
Or a whole zoo, a whole collection of zoo animals. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, there's a theme, even like Android by itself, there's different flavors, right? But yeah, I think regex, I'm trying to find an example. I know my network engineers have done it, but it's very rarely. What I'm seeing a lot more than anything is JSON, web applications, knowing how to understand dictionaries a lot, or dictionaries inside a list, how to extrapolate, split it, just like what we did here, how to know, the key and the value, which is very common, how to use it. And obviously what we tend to use for us is, what is that tool? Well, how could I forget it? We get to test the JSON related formats here. I forgot the tool already. So many tools.
Jest, or are you using something? I'm trying to think of there's a lot of JSON validators and stuff like that, but.
Postman, sorry. That's what it is.
Postman, yes. No, how can I forget that? Damn, yeah.
Yeah, and so I like Postman because at least it guides you, because it gives you a snippet of the different codes. It's very handy for like Python if you don't know how to get the data, know the headers, how to authenticate, because obviously it's all about authentication, understanding how to connect. A lot of things are in the cloud, so you have to understand token information, have the admin rights to be able to read and write, and absolutely you got to have admin rights, because if you have somebody tapping into that stuff, they can get a lot of data, even if the data is encrypted. So that's a very dangerous information. You don't want to share that. You usually want to have that separate, or have somebody enter the password so it's not stored in a clear text file. So I'm focusing a lot on security, because there's so much of our identity theft. It's serious matter. There's a lot of breaches out there. There's vulnerabilities, even for Linux, that come out. Windows is always the most vulnerable because there's so much of it, but Linux is also vulnerable too, because it's widely deployed for web servers.
Yeah.
So it's a lot.
It is a lot. But that's a great answer too, is that, really your best strategy is to say, regex is a thing, that there are situations where it's useful, and where to go to learn more about it if you need to in the moment. But putting it on your list of things I must memorize might not be the best strategy.
No.
Yeah. There's
Remember,
Danielle. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
remember, you always have Google and Stack
Oh, we
Overflow.
Google a lot.
Liliana trended for a bit because she actually did a presentation last night where she said, you know, the data is the most important thing, and for the rest, you have Google. And
you have Google.
that's true.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's important that you have an idea what it is and what it's used for, and try to understand as much as you can. But that just don't get stuck with that. Just keep moving, because whenever the time comes, you are gonna remember if you can use it, because you know what it is for. And if you need to use it, you just go ahead and refer back to the material.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
plus they have tools for that too nowadays for regex.
Yeah, there are, and there are a lot of like nice online tools, and also, you know, Stack Overflow, the god of quick answers. You know what my personal strategy is for regex? I have patterns I know absolutely work, and I have a library of them. And I have my go-to patterns. I'm like, I know that this one will clean out, you know, this character set, and I save them. I have a whole list of them. And you know, it's interesting because over the years I've come to like know regex, but not nearly at the level as like some of these people who program in Perl and stuff who are just mind-bogglingly good. And I don't know that I ever will be, unless I'm in a job that needs it. So, all right. So Danielle had a quick question about what's the benefit of using Dirname over basename and vice versa. You know, I don't know. I think it would depend on, you know, the pipeline that you're putting together or the script that you're using, and, you know, how much information you need and when you need it, right? So, you know, you might be able to do, you know, maybe you're checking things and you need to separate out in the tree what is a path from what is a file name. And so maybe you'll use it in that way. I don't know. Someone else talk. I'm talking too much again. Liliana, do you have some thoughts about where you use Dirname versus basename, or vice versa?
Wouldn't it be the same thing though? I think they're the same. They work the same.
Well,
It's similar.
changes though, right? Depending on the.
Yeah.
Yeah, depends which folder you want. I think it's useful for, like you said, like organizing files, or especially if we're doing templating. A lot of us try to do a lot of automation on configuration.
Yeah.
So especially Django, right? There's always a certain folder for different things. So you want to understand, all right, what's the common folder for like settings, or what a database is, which I forgot already because I know it's specific paths. So yeah, it depends what you're doing. You just got to know the structure and what you need.
Yeah, and so if what you always are going to need is what your script is expecting back is always a file name, you might want to say, okay, I'm going to use basename. And when basename doesn't have a dot in it, and this might be a place where you use regex or not, but if what's returned doesn't have a dot in it, then it's a directory and I don't want it, right? But you develop your own kind of, like, as you work with the data or the situation, you develop a pattern, and of course you only want the thing that you want. So whatever gets you to that place quickest, right? And so basename might get you quicker because you know it's pulling off the thing on the end, right? Or something like that. So.
No.
Uh-oh, denied.
Yeah, it's a block. QoS for your queuing block. It's EF right now.
Nice. All right. Well, we are at
it's
Pacific time. We're at 6:31 my time, so I think we are going to wrap this up. But thank you, everyone, for joining us and for going through this kind of crazy madcap thing. And we will do some more file parsing, and whether it's, and Lisa, this is strategy, whether it's regex, file parsing, or anything else related to what we've covered so far. Liliana and I are happy to answer any questions or provide additional resources or work through small problems with you in the Automate the Boring Stuff channel on our Slack team. And if any of you need an invite to that Slack team, you can either message us in the chat directly or in the public chat with your email, and Liliana and I will add you to the Slack team. And yeah, we're down for hopping into pair programming or answering questions or any of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.